at least 2 or 3, almost a day, you know, at least 5 or 7 a week. I hang up on them. And we are going to be in the thick of the political campaigning for the presidential election. And I know that even with the primary election, I got so many calls. I just hang up on them. People don't want to be bothered with a phone call and to have a survey conducted by phone. I have received, I know council has received letters this afternoon, and I'm wondering when will be the appropriate time to read those into the minutes, because I've had people say, would you make sure that my voice is heard tonight? So I'm going to ask the mayor. I will not support the Godby $18,000 survey, phone survey. I think that's a waste of money. I don't think it's a good sampling. We need to let all 5,000 some odd residents of our town have an opportunity to vote. So when will we read the letters into the minutes?
I think public comment.
Well, either public comments or council comments if you're going to read them on behalf of a constituent.
Well, I think most of these were sent to all council members, so it just wasn't sent to me. So I just want to know, you know.
It was sent to you.
I think that.
This is Mayor Widmer, Vice Mayor Lewis, council members.
No, I said, yeah, to all of us. It was sent to all of us.
Yeah.
So who's going to read them?
Is it on this issue?
Yes.
Oh, then anybody, if you want to read it.
It's public comments, though. Let's do it as public comments, okay? At the beginning of public comments, we'll handle that. Do you have a comment? Yeah.
Yes, I guess I do. What this issue reminds me of is high-speed rail. It's a complex issue. It's a polarizing issue. And it's an issue where I think we're all too likely to make a mistake based on emotion. A while back, I think it was November, December, I said it was a complex issue, and I felt it was a difficult issue to take to a voter vote. And people accused me of saying that people in the town were stupid. I don't think people in this town are stupid at all. I think we have a lot of geniuses in this town. But that doesn't mean that I think this is necessarily an issue that I would want to take to a vote. I think when you look at the EIR, the first one is thick, the next one a little less thick, and you realize how much time, let alone how much money, has been spent in studying this issue. Not many people want to read it. It took me probably 20 hours the first time to read it and digest it. I won't say I'm particularly intelligent, but I did go to Smith, and I did graduate from Columbia. It was the only law school I applied to, and I got in. So I guess that tells you that I'm not terribly stupid. And I think I know how to read an EIR statement. But I don't know that many people in town want to spend that much time studying just the EIR, which deals with environmental issues, let alone the social issues, and have to study those as well. But look what happened with high-speed rail. Look at how California voters thought it was going to work. They couldn't study all the ridership issues, the cost issues, how much a ticket was going to cost, what was going to happen with the freight issues or the electrification issues that were part of it. And look at where we are now. What a debacle. The same, I think, applies to the library and where its location is. Do you know, I questioned somebody, and I said, in the draft EIR, it was interesting that one of the most potentially important issues was not raised at all. You want to know what it was? And it's interesting because some of the people who made comments about it and who are on the rail committee, who one would think, caring so much about the issue of the library and the park, would be the ones who would in all fairness, want to raise this issue, if they were being fair, never once brought it up. High-speed rail and electrification, right out there. It affects everything this town is going to be doing with regard to any building, whether it's a town center or a library. One can say, maybe high-speed rail will never come here. There are people who believe that to be the case. But electrification, I wouldn't bet that it's not going to happen. I wouldn't bet that we're not going to have 20, 30-foot berms with catenary lines on top. And what's it going to mean for any building, whether it's a town center or a library here? You have to at least consider it. And you have to at least consider it when any real estate agent who's selling any property around here is under a legal obligation to tell people who are looking at property about what is going to be happening, what might be happening, and yet no one raised that issue. No one. It's not in the draft EIR. So, it being such a partisan issue, it being such a complex issue, it being an issue that is so partisan at this point, don't we want to be fair, and don't we want to think about not only is what in the best interests of the people of this town, but in generations to come, of what is the legacy we're going to bring to this town, not only a library, but a town center, a police building, an administrative building. Are we just going to think about ourselves or what our neighbor or our friend thinks? Are we not going to think about our children? Are we not going to think about, our community? Isn't that what we should be here for? That's what I'm here for, and that's what I'm thinking about when I make these statements. Okay, a survey. What about a survey? Do we want something going out a piece of paper? Do you want a library in the park without any background? So many people we've sent out as members of the library building steering committee, so many pieces of paper, and yet how many times people say, oh, I thought that was done, or, oh, events in the park make a lot of money. They don't. A report last October said events for the last 3 years lost over $300,000. Your taxpayer money. How many times we go over these facts again and again and again, people don't, it doesn't register. I don't expect it to. I don't expect everyone, to remember all of these facts. That's not your obligation. You have lives to lead. But it is our obligation, those of us who are studying this issue. A police survey was done several years ago. Chief Brennan lauded that survey. I have heard one of the people who now are against this survey many times praising that survey. It's exactly the same kind of survey that is being now talked about. We on the library steering committee, 2 of us, last December, went to a leading survey analyst and on our own wanted to pay for a survey. We talked with a surveyor and said, what can you do for us? The town is divided, they want a survey, but we want a professional survey. We want you to do something that will end this division in town. And what do you think is the best kind of survey to be done? One that will be fair, one that will be a cross-section of town, one that will keep us out of it, and you handle it. And this is exactly what that organization came up with. The problem for the 2 of us was it was going to cost $20,000, and while we were willing to put up some funds, that was a little bit out of our range, and so we didn't do it. So what's fair and what's right? All of a sudden, people want an EIR, and we do it, and now it's too expensive when we answer all the comments. People want community input in all these meetings, and we hold 12 community meetings and more than 100 committee meetings, and that's not enough. And we say, okay, now we're going to do a survey, and it's exactly the same kind of survey that everyone has been touting as the most wonderful survey that has shown our police department to be 7%. Great, but it's not good enough here. When is it going to stop? When can we come together as a community and just look at what an outside organization that did it on its own, that wouldn't show drafts to the library steering committee, that didn't consult with the library steering committee, that looked at it from a totally objective standard. Read the EIR if you question it. Question them. Question the EIR. Question the planning committee. Question the council. Question the consultants. Look at the statistics. They used a higher standard. They included parking space, which isn't in normal EIR. If they didn't come up with the best preferred site, who else is? What more do you want, people? Thank you.
Is that it?
Mr. Mayor, could I just say one thing?
Sure.
I will point out that as far as high-speed railroad goes, that the town of Atherton was the only town that voted against Proposition 1A. All the other communities in the peninsula and Senator Smithion's territory voted for Proposition 1A, which says to me that Atherton residents are pretty damn smart. As far as berms go, I haven't heard anything at all about 30-foot berms for electrified railroad. What they've talked about is that grade electrification, which would mean that the trains would be a lot quieter than they are today. And if we could get this to be a quiet zone out here with squad gates on Watkins Avenue, would mean we wouldn't have any more train horns either.
And if you go back to who brought both of the lawsuits, it was me. I was the mayor at the time. Thank you.
Okay.
I would just like to clarify one other thing about the park, the events at the park. Over the last 3 years and the loss of money, yes, it was quite a deficit, but in 2011 things were restructured and we were on track to actually with an outside rental vendor agency to make money, but this council determined to stop doing all rentals at the park and we lost money. So I mean, it's easy to go back and say, yeah, we lost all that money at the park, but there's been moves made by this council to essentially strip the park and in preparation for the library.
Excuse me, Elizabeth, our finance director said there was no guarantee that we would make or lose money.
There's never a guarantee.
So to say that we were on track to make money, the finance director said we could lose money still.
Any other council comments? So just kind of in closing my preamble, I will again remind that several people did write to me as late as just a week ago, a week and a half ago, saying, please do a survey. Please reconsider your vote. I abstained from doing a survey. Please reconsider your vote. And so I've done that, and now it seems that there is uproar with regards to that. So with that, I think there are a number of mail-in comments. And so what I'd like to do is hear those first. So why don't
you just give them, and they can be, we don't all have to listen to that, do we?
yes. Yes, they were asked to be read.
Well, why don't we let the people who are here speak first, rather than the people who just sent things in?
We're here. So, all right, fine. No problem. Then I'll feel like I'm C-SPAN after you guys leave. Fine, no problem.
Thank you. My name is Walter Sleeth, and I live at 227 Catalpa here in Atherton. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. The emotions that have been precipitated by the analysis of where to locate a new / updated library would certainly have surprised our residents 2 years ago. I will not hide my opinion. I think the analysis has provided us with a good answer. Maybe not perfect to everyone, but certainly good enough. put a new library in Holbrook Palmer Park. Some people complain that to increase its size will only draw non-Athertonians into our town. We are an elite group here. To retain this aura, must we continue to be stuck with an unsafe structure and cramped facilities? It is regretful that when the funds are available, that there is such a degree of incivility, i.e. the removal of some people from the Athertonian blog because they are perceived to attack the moderators. Here there is a lack of transparency, where none can be directed at the council or the library steering committee. What I found particularly upsetting are the ad hominem attacks and snide comments made at the expense of residents who, with all sincerity, dedicated themselves to trying to do the right thing. It was not as if the steering committee buried itself. No, it has been completely transparent. All meetings were open and the council gave them their direction. The attacks on Councilwoman McKeithen have been particularly unfair. She has worked extremely hard and given much thought to all the issues. Neither she nor others working on the committee have hardly been a part of a cabal. It is sad that the way this matter has progressed will likely have a long-term effect on the use of government processes like this and the willingness of residents to step forward to be a part of volunteer government bodies. However, if the council decides to work out a survey or poll, please set it up so it cannot later be criticized as biased. Thank you very much.
I'm Paul Jones. I live at 99 Moulton Drive. Over the course of my professional career, I have designed and executed a number of surveys on a number of topics, and I understand a fair amount about the process. A survey, if it's conducted in a truly objective fashion, can shed some very useful light on this issue. However, the manner in which the respondents are selected, the questions are framed, the interviews are conducted, and the results are analyzed can bias this in any direction that you like. If the library steering committee is supervising this survey, I can almost guarantee that it will favor a location in the park. If the opponents of the park supervise this survey, it will give the adverse result. If this survey cannot be guaranteed as being absolutely objective, it's a complete waste of time and money. Even the council in its votes on the library, it shows a 3-2 bias every time and should not be trusted to manage the survey. I'd like to know how you expect to ensure that this is objective before you go after it. Otherwise, it is a total waste.
Any other public comments? Oh, John, I'm sorry.
John Ruggiero, Stockbridge. This gentleman, I was going to speak, he stole most of my thunder, he's right. If you survey by telephone 400, 600 people in this town, the next town meetings next year of the neighborhoods and so on, you're going to have nothing but revolts. Well, they didn't call me, they called you, they didn't call. Telephone is out completely. The other type, now in November, it could have been settled. When Peter Carpenter and them ran for office for the fire, there was a little election last November. You people let it bypass you. The only one item on there was to pick the fire commissioner, whatever. Would have been settled out of your hands beforehand, but that's over, that's gone now. To make a special election, you have to have about 100 some days. That's dead. The November election, you're going to have all this national stuff that'll be buried in there. The only thing I see, and I can be very wrong, is a mailed out one to all the 5,010 voters, the 7,000 plus residents, and we have an awful lot of renters out in Atherton now, whether you're aware. In our area, there's many, many renters. They're out of it. It's the registered voters. And as he said, the gentleman, if the pro-library, pro-park people rent it, it's going to be pick their way, and the opposite has to be a neutral group or person, whoever is going to do this. But you send out, you phone 200 people or 400 or 1,000 people in this town, and next week you can say, well, they called you, they didn't call me. And oh yeah, my maid was home and I didn't talk to him, and I have to agree with Elizabeth, I hang up on these guys 5 or 6 times a week before they get the syllables out of their mouth on survey.
Peter's up already, you can go next, okay?
Peter Carpenter, One Large. I think all of you have indicated the dilemma that we face is that this issue has divided the community, it's divided the council. I personally would urge you not to proceed with the survey, primarily because I don't care how well it's done. After it's over, the people who come out on the losing side are going to say it wasn't valid. Whether their survey says yes in the park or no, whatever. I think the only solution, we have 5 people who've been elected by the citizens, respected, well-educated people, and you're split 3-2. I think at this point the only alternative is to in fact go to the people. And one of the virtues in California is that we've developed a very good process of putting issues before the people with pro and con statements and answers to the pro and con statements so that everybody's dealing with the same collection of facts. And I would urge you to take that approach. Perhaps we can do it as a 100% registered voter, mail, either survey or ballot. I don't know what the rules are in the county in terms of mail ballots, but I would like to see it separated if we could from the November election. And I would urge you to first say no to the survey issue, and second, just recognize this issue is not going to go to rest until the citizens have the opportunity to have their say. Thank you very much.
I was thinking about the division that there is on this issue and some other ones, and I was wondering, and I don't know this, as whether people are frustrated because they perceive that this thing's moved forward without them being asked. And once you have that perception, it's really tough to change it. And then that frustration turns to anger, and then the anger turns to blaming people. And it's really gotten out of control here. Like I said, I've been here for 18 months, and I'm really flabbergasted about what's going on here in Atherton. But I think that the survey is just going to leave things the way they are. I didn't get asked, I still didn't get to weigh in, and so therefore my view on this has not been really taken into account. So I believe that the survey is really a waste of money, whether you do 200 people or 400 people. I think we've got to get everybody somehow to believe that they've been asked. And if it comes out that people want it in the park, it goes in the park. And people don't want it in the park, it doesn't go in the park. If we can get people to perceive that they've been asked, okay, I think we can really bring this town back together. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
My name is Ann McNerney, and I live in Watkins Avenue. And Mr. Roser is quite right. People are angry, and they are angry because of the way the whole library questionnaire came. It came out that people who were pro-library asked, library in the park, asked their friends to go to the steering committee meetings, and they were praised. At the Parks Committee meeting, I said, people are just waking up. The Parks Committee asked you to do a survey then, and you voted against it. Then other people said in their report, which was submitted to you, Mr. Raymond, that we should have a referendum and a vote. And yet, again, you were split. 3-2, you voted against it. I understand the people who are really pro-library in the park, McKeithen and Dobie. I don't understand why you denied us the opportunity to express ourselves by a vote, Mr. Widmer. And I think this thought of having a 200, 400, 1,000 survey is a dodge, to sort of cover up, you're denying us of a vote, and I resent it, and people resent the fact, and I live on 1 Watkins where they're going to expand if they put it in the park. And nobody consulted me. My next door neighbor brought me an article that was in the Daily Post. That was the first I heard about in the park, having the library in the park. And I think a lot of people are legitimately and righteously angry. I see these for sale signs up around Atherton lately, and I'm going, boy, is this happening because the town council isn't listening to us, and people have just, there's such acrimony in the town? I'm really, you can solve that by having a vote. A survey isn't going to do it. I have absolutely no faith that it can be done fairly. It came out that the first result of supposed fully vetted ideas about whether the library should be in the park only had represented 1% of the Atherton population and 47% of the people who lived here. You have a registered voter list, send a ballot, and let's have a vote. And if you don't want to vote, then I think we should get rid of the way we run Atherton and go to a Vermont town meeting. At least the people can vote, because you certainly aren't letting us.
Other public comments?
My name's Joe Donnie. I live at Linden Avenue. And I think that we live in a democracy, and majority rules. Everyone should have a chance to weigh in on the issue and make a vote pro or con. This is the first I've really heard about this whole controversy recently. I'm glad I've been able to be enlightened to it and actually have a chance to say something in regards to the issue. I think a vote is the fairest way to hear about it.
I'm Stuart Aubrey, and I'm not sure that this is as significant as I believe it is, but if you read the new EIR that was released on Friday, in the comments section, there were about 20 responses. And it's significant to me that only 2 or 3 were in favor of the library in the park, and the other 17 were not. So that I think you are hearing something significant from the town.
Ray Gerard, 41 Irving Avenue. Take a vote. I second the comments because the gentleman about surveys and how it's a question of how you frame them, et cetera, and no matter how it comes out. I have experience with it. I've seen the same kinds of problems. It's telephone poles. One of the major problems that the national organizations, polling organizations, Zogby, et cetera, comment is that they have trouble reaching so many people because so many people rely upon cell phones and they're not able to reach them. And so the response rate has dropped dramatically, and they have to make more calls just to get a number, and it's not clear that that's representative. A vote will be representative. If only 10% choose to vote, shame on us. If 80% choose to vote, good for us. One final comment. I find it terribly distressing to have a council member comment that she has driven Athertonians out of town and they didn't belong here anyway, or words to that effect. That really is over the top.
Hear, hear.
Rachel Croft. I don't believe I said that, sir.
76
You
Moulton
did.
Drive. I served on Park and Rec Commission down in the 1980s, and we had 2 different organizations want to put a building in the park. One of them was the Anderson Art Collection, and the other one was a bonsai collection. And the Park and Rec Commission recommended to the council that they not be put in the park because we wanted to preserve open space, and we felt the traffic resulting would be too great. And that's the feeling I have again about the library in the park. I think also the entrance to the park is not adequate with only one entry. And the existing library has many entries to it, and I think it can be worked out there. But mainly, the Park and Rec Commission was listened to by the council in both of those cases. And this time, none of you did listen to the recommendation that Park and Rec made, which said they wanted to have a vote. So, thank you.
Greg Conlon, 43 Virginia. I just want to, I've been physically and mentally out of town for about 3 months, so I'm a little out of it as far as the issues. But I'm familiar with the polls and the surveys because just 2 weeks ago I was participating in a poll that showed that I'd be running against Dianne Feinstein today, and I didn't even come close. So I think you have to, and the margin of error was plus or minus 4% or 4.5%, and we had 500 participants. So I just think if you're going to do this, you need to get a population that's large enough that the margin of error shouldn't be more than 2 or 3%. And I don't know what that is because I'm not a statistician, but I just think that 200 on the surface just sounds like that the margin of error is going to be so great that it's not going to be able to be relied on. So, but the people you hire or whoever you interview, I think can give you the input on how big a sample you need and what the margin of error would be. And I just encourage you to get a large enough sample that when it's over that you've got a narrow margin of error.
I voted for you, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you.
Not too many.
Charles Marcella, Emily. So I want to first say there's a lot of good people who have been working on this for a long time, that have done a lot of good stuff for the town for many, many years. It's a shame that it became so divisive. The vote, I believe, would bring the town together. It's been talked about for almost a year now, that if you have a vote, both sides will feel that they were heard, and then the energy will dismiss. It's unfortunate that it's gone on for so long to not have a vote. There's a story in the Almanac this week that says the theater that was built, the Performing Arts Theater, they call it no-show time, that the city helps build theater but struggles on how to use it. And there are emails, which you guys haven't read yet, but some of the emails say, this one lady says, I rarely visit our park, but I've been a regular at a library, and I visit the park at least once a month, more often. I'm there at very hours and never have any sense the library was overcrowded or overutilized. So you could be building a bigger library, and ebooks come along, and the EIR doesn't really talk about the future of libraries and what impact all that could have for the fact that the Menlo Park is close by. And I believe the residents of the town are aware of those issues and they would want to weigh in with their vote. The town council will approve the final draft of a survey. And as the gentlemen have said, that will put questions in the voters' mind, or the people of the town's mind. It's like this council will spend the money, Gabi will give you the survey in the end, and you'll have a chance to make some edits as to what's being done. So it's going to be hard to think that the survey is not biased. You have a chance, if you do it as a ballot, you can put 200 words for each side, you can explain the benefits of each side and give each side a 150-word response to explain if anything that they feel that the other side has misrepresented, and then you just put it out there. People will be able to make up their mind on this. I do believe when I heard about the EIR saying that the park was the best place, that they said they relied on the surveys that had already been done, the task force report saying that the library was the best choice. That question I'd asked at the planning commission meeting. A lot of people, like the arts center that I worked on to put in the park, was shot down. A fishing pond was shut down. Historically, this town has really wanted to save the park as open space, and I believe a lot of residents just look at that as the bottom line, is the open space issue. The high-speed rail, the opposition had no funds. It was funded to favor it by a lot of the unions and a lot of other people. So it was very slanted as far as what was put out to the public on how to vote on it. And a lot of other councils weren't paying attention. Palo Alto thought it was a great idea. They didn't realize what it really impacted. If you rent the library buildings out, you do get $5,000 a night. So as far as Councilmember Lewis said, if you started a rental program, you would have a profit of about $90,000 a year now. And that was reported by the Public Works Director a few months ago.
Any other public comments?
I just want to make sure that there's another vote for sending out a mailed questionnaire, a survey, rather than a telephone one. And I would echo Charles on how the thing is worded. That has a lot to do with why 1A was passed. What is going on with high-speed rail is not what was on the ballot. And so you'll have to be very careful about how the survey, if you do a mailed survey, which I think is far better than a 200 voice telephone message, which I think is very ineffective, but be very careful about how you word it. I didn't get to the professional part of it, but my dissertation had a lot to do with a mailed questionnaire, and they're not easy to do fairly, which needs to balance both sides. And I really hope they'll do that to get the community's ideas represented. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, and we'll come back to council.
You want to read the written comments?
Oh, yes, thank you. Elizabeth, you had a couple comments you wanted to read?
Yes. I'll start with this one. This is a letter, and the sidebar letterhead has about 90 signatures and endorsers. Has about 90 resident endorsers on it, and it's a message. It's a letter to the council. Dear Mr. Mayor, we want to thank you for having met with us this past week. We appreciate the willingness you showed at the meeting to bring the matter of letting residents have the right to vote on the library to the council agenda. For us, given the EIR process, only a binding vote by residents on the location question